Last Sunday was Respect Life Sunday, and I know I was supposed to give a pro-life homily last Sunday, but since we were also beginning the baby bottle campaign, I wanted to give CareNet an opportunity to send a representative to talk about their work. And I'm glad I waited because many of the things that Kim said in her talk last weekend fit in beautifully with what I feel like I'm called to say today. Respecting life, of course, is about more than just stopping abortion, but the practice of abortion is at the heart in most ways, at least in our day, in our culture, is at the heart of the gospel of life. So I first want to talk about abortion. And at the end, I want to address some aspects of how religion and politics come together with the practice of abortion and efforts to stop it. This is, of course, the season of signs, so I have a sign for each of these ideas. My favorite sentence in Kim's talk came in the beginning of it. She said something like, "At CareNet, we offer alternatives to abortion." And this is the first point I want to make about how we fight our fight against abortion. In our efforts to limit and then hopefully stop one day the practice of abortion, we can't just say, no, don't do that, you know. You know how effective that is with your own children, you know. Well, with adults, it's even worse, you know, and it should be. Yes, there's a time when they're very small when you say, no, don't do that. You don't have time to explain, or maybe they can't understand yet the reasonings. But with adults, you can't just say no. Now, let me be clear that we have to say that this practice is wrong. We have to be clear about the fact. But we have to say more than that, you know. And CareNet's approach is so good in that, and the church, when she's at her best, is good at explaining why something is wrong. It takes education, you know. Unfortunately, I think the church, and we in the church, are not always at our best when it comes to abortion. That's part of the reason of my talk, you know. And so I put together kind of some steps, 4 steps maybe, that I think would be a good approach to people. And the first is what I said: we have to speak clearly and truly that the practice of abortion is a moral evil. And as I say that, I want to say that for its sake, but the truth is, I'm not even sure saying a moral evil is a good thing to say. That word evil just really excites people. And sometimes it can sound like you're saying the people are evil or something. So to be honest with you, most of the time I say moral good. That abortion is not a moral good, you know. We have to say that. But then we have to say why, and this, as I say, involves education. I love that CareNet is using ultrasounds. As we say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And we can tell people the reason abortion is wrong is because it's killing a person. There's a person in there. But what better way than to see it, you know? The other phrase I really liked that Kim said was that the ultrasound provided a window into the womb, you know. And when we heard how powerful it is when people actually see a heart beating, when they see little fingers and little toes or something, that's the best education there could be, that there's a person in there, you know. And then the third step, and again, this is what I love about CareNet, we will help you to do the right thing. Any preacher who cares about preaching at all, any pastor who takes it seriously, worries about something that Jesus said in, I believe it's chapter 21 of Matthew, where he says, "Woe to you, Pharisees! You bind up heavy burdens and lay them on men's shoulders and do not lift a finger to help them carry them." We cannot just say, "No, you can't do that." We can't even just say, "No, you can't do that, and this is why." If we really want to be effective, we'll say, "No, you can't do that because it's wrong, and this is why," and we'll help you. I'll help you do the right thing. And so, of course, all those things that they do, the 24/7 helpline, the pregnancy testing, the counseling, the parenting classes, the car seats, all these things are practical ways that CareNet says will help you to keep your baby. I'm going to add, and I'll add a fourth one that she didn't talk about, but it's implicit in what they do, but I want to be more explicit about it. We have to listen to people. Listen carefully to the reasons that they are pro-choice, quote unquote, or something. And I'll give you an example. I met someone yesterday, and in the course of what I was asking him, we got into a conversation, and he said to me that he doesn't really want abortions, but he feels like he also wants to support women and support them in control of their bodies or whatever, And, we might scoff at that or whatever, but I take him seriously. Ignatius always says, assume the best until proven otherwise. I personally believe that most people who have abortions or support abortions don't really want to kill babies. I don't think that's what it's about, And here is a man saying, well, I don't like abortions, but I also feel like I'm supposed to, so what do I do? And that requires a conversation, It requires us, first of all, to take the person seriously and see someone, not just who is pro-choice or something, but someone who is struggling themselves with what the right thing to do is. And then take the time to engage them. Make the effort to listen to their thoughts or their arguments and offer solutions or offer counter ways to think about things, etc., This will make us much more effective, I think. And so my sign for this is work to end abortion. Now, we Christians know that ending abortion is about more than politics, the courts, public opinion, right? It's mostly about changing hearts and opposing Satan. Now, don't misunderstand me, please. I don't mean, when I mention Satan, I don't mean that everyone who is having an abortion is evil or anything like that. I don't mean that Satan is forcing people to get abortions. But do not think for a moment that Satan is not working diligently to keep abortions happening. And so for these two things, the conversion of hearts and opposing Satan, we rely on prayer. Only God ultimately will defeat the enemy. Only God, in the mysterious way he works in people's hearts, changes them. You know yourself. God works in your heart, and it has worked in ways that you'd be hard put to really explain to someone else. But God is working, right? I think about that line in Luke's gospel. After this, the Lord appointed 70 others and sent them on ahead of him, 2 by 2, into every town and place where he himself was about to come. The Lord wants to come to each person, to each heart, and change their hearts. He may use us, right, to prepare them, but ultimately it's the Lord who changes hearts. And so those who pray, sometimes privately, sometimes publicly in here or something, or in front of the Planned Parenthood abortion center, whatever, those who pray not only give witness, but bring God's power into the struggle. And so my sign for this is the sign that we see in the 40 Days for Life. Pray to end abortion. Now, these are examples of what I call stopping one abortion. We have to work on this micro level. Each person, change their hearts. But there's a macro level too, and I call that stopping all abortions. And the church has to work in that arena as well. That's the arena of the macro scale, cities, counties, the nation. It means politics and the courts, And I want to say just a few things about this arena. Changing the laws of the country. Laws against abortion are not anti-women. No one would call speed limit an anti-driver law. It's there to protect potential victims of someone who drives too fast in an area. In a way, it's also meant to protect the drivers from themselves, like seatbelt laws or whatever. Laws against abortion are about two things. One, they're about protecting potential victims of abortion, the innocent and helpless children in the womb. And they are also about protecting women from themselves. Abortion is not good for the mother either. And so these laws are not anti-women. Secondly, the court rulings. Some argue that the court should never have been involved in all this to begin with. It was in the arena of the legislature where this should be figured out. I tend to agree with that, but my opinion there is like anybody else. It's worth whatever anybody else's is. I don't claim to have any deep insight into civics. But, like it or not, wrong or right, the courts are involved in this practice of abortion. And so we have to think about that arena as well, Religion and politics. We have a strange understanding in this country anymore about separation of church and state and all that, what that means, where it comes from, whether it even really exists in the Constitution, whatever. But here's the point. The church did not make abortion political. Politicians and voters did. And I want to show you this, and for those listening on YouTube later, I'm holding up a Trump PENCE sign. This is a political sign. And again, for our listening audience, I'm holding up a sign that says Biden-Harris. This is a political sign. But this, and I'm holding up a sign that says vote to end abortion. This is not a political sign. This is a religious sign. See, as I say, the church didn't make abortion political. Voters and politicians made it political. At its heart, for the church, abortion is not a political issue, it's a moral issue. And so she must speak out about it. But politics is one of the mechanisms by which we influence moral and immoral behavior. First, the church used word of mouth and donkeys to take people places or whatever, And then we started using radio and television. And for the last few years, we priests, we pastors have been told, use social media. Politics is one of the vehicles by which the church spreads her influence about moral and immoral matters, And she does not have any political power, and nor does she seek it, right? But she must speak about what is moral and immoral about politics or political issues. And really, let's be clear, voters are free to ignore the church, right? All of us can ignore God, we can ignore the church, we can just go about our business however we want, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean the church shouldn't speak about it. I hear this all the time. The church should stay out of politics. You know what I never hear? I never hear anyone say politicians should stay out of moral issues, out of morality. The church speaks about what is moral and immoral. And she speaks to plumbers, she speaks to electricians, she speaks to teachers, and she speaks to judges and politicians. See, the Catholic Church has the right, both the civil right in the Constitution and the moral, not just the moral right, but the moral mandate. Don't mistake me, I got ahead of myself. She has the constitutional right, just like the National Organization of Women or AARP or whatever, to speak and to try to influence people about politics. And so, vote to end abortion does not mean vote for this person or that person. What vote to end abortion is, means just don't work to end abortion, just don't pray to end abortion, but also put people in office who will, through their actions, protect the innocent life in the womb. Not everyone is called to every type of work in the church. We're called to different things. But the church as a whole is called to, by any means she can, any legal and moral means, to stop evil behaviors, morally wrong behaviors in the world, And if priests and bishops, deacons preach to end abortion, if Catholics would all work to end abortion, or if Catholics would pray to end abortion, if Catholics would vote to end abortion, one day perhaps no innocent, helpless child will ever die in the womb again.